Hi everyone. Right, just a stream because John keeps asking me for updating the old majors, or John keeps asking me for Ripple, so I will start with Ripple. But I guess just in general on these, messy, like everything's super messy, and you can see all the alerts that I've had in and been calling in the premium channel recently, well, not calling, but alerting in the premium channel recently. It's just all been quite messy, like giving good scalps, but it's just been going sideways since around November, good couple of months, even October, some earlier, like in the case of BCH. Yeah, so it's mainly just been calling for scalps, or alerting for scalps. Most of which have been working okay, or at least giving scalps, but obviously not giving bigger moves because price isn't giving bigger moves at the moment, and a lot of this depends on the timing with Bitcoin. And so the long side has been more challenging because of the wicks, and also because you can have aggressive entries which give small moves, but then price is coming back down on a wick, or a few wicks in the case of some, but depends a lot if you're trading larger zones or not. I think the problem is when they look worse than they are is that you're trading a large, like in the case of EOS here for example, you're trading a 3-week or a 2-week zone for a long, with being conscious it's come off 3 months supply, but thus it's going to take some time before it even gets any sort of move, and in this time it's then created weekly supply, so thus it's going to take even longer to consider whether it's going to hold this zone or not. But yeah, anyway, so Ripple. Let's just go a bit of top down because I haven't really looked at the high time frame properly since the new year. So it's difficult, and when we were talking about this the other day, this just, while we're creating 3-month demands here, 3 months, it's bounced off it, wicked up, another 3 months, bounced off it, not done much so far. This is quite corrective, and obviously preferred entry is on this 3 month at the base of here. So if the yearly's just in a range, 6 month the same. So yeah, 3 month obviously is preferable to come down here, although this has a large wick off it, so I suspect there's something higher. So yeah, there was a 2 month, but even that, yes, I remember now, I think I had an entry on this 2 month, and did it get tapped or not? So the open of that candle 2816, and the low of this candle 287. So just by a hair it was higher on that. Nothing new on the 2 month here. And except for the supply side, so I haven't commented on supply. So obviously supply side, we're in this 2 month supply up here. And this whole chart is a range, so to be able to say, this is going to go up to the moon or down to hell is quite hard based on this time frame. You've got this giant triangle, but the problem is this is just sort of rather corrective, I was kind of considering actually it's a little bit like this in reverse, but then is that wick to come, or is that wick that's already happened? So in this case we had this long wick off the low, taking out the lows. Arguably this hasn't taken out, this took out some stops here, but it hasn't taken out the highs, and it went, I think it did go into monthly. No, I think it just short of the monthly level there, on the wick. So the open of this candle 9537, and the high of this 944. So yeah, again slightly lower, which always makes it again slightly challenging, because then is it going to come back and take out the high? And this took out all the lows here, so are we going to go and take out all the highs here, or even here? Possible. So there's arguments on each side of it, but trading what we see at the moment, we are coming off a 3 month demand, weak 3 month demand, because since the 3 month got created, let's go back to that, since the 3 month got created, it hasn't broken this candle high. We're still in the range of this candle, so But that doesn't mean it won't work, it just means it's weaker. So now we're just sort of waiting to see if we're going to get any play out of this. And you know, as I've said, like, I don't like how corrective this is looking. I don't like that there's a massive possibility of a stop hunt below all those lows. Just checking my microphone's on because I've done these before and ended up having the microphone off, which is not ideal. Okay, so monthly. So yeah, there's not much for me to add to my analysis here. Preferred entries would be back down here if we're getting a wick down to there, so I don't think there's anything wrong with having stink bids in the where's the 3 month open, yeah, in the 25, sorry, just low 24s 25 range, just in case. Monthly 3 week, okay. So 3 week again, so you can see my alerts from here. You know, I had this, you know, if we're getting a swing failure off that monthly, you know, which we never did, and it did come down significantly after that. I think I was hoping that while we were still up here somewhere. The 2 week supply up there, or actually even 3 week supply up there, and there's also a 3 week down here, or the 1 month again, we didn't quite hit at that low there. So at this point, we are getting a bounce. I'll put the lines back on now, although it gets quite busy doing this, but at this point we're bouncing off the 3 month demand, so we can say I'm long biased for now. Don't like it potentially breaking this trend line, then that trend line is obviously more important coming all the way from the lows. Let's see in the linear scale. No, linear scale, it's more strongly above that trend line. So we've come off the 3 month demand, we've come off the 3 week inside it, which is where I had that entry there. I'm not sure what that higher one was. Might have been something there at the time. Okay, and now we also have a 2 week supply. So I don't love this, but I have alerted it. So obviously all the short entries have been in quite well so far, but then obviously now we're also leaving this trail of stops above here, so that hence this one becomes more risky. It's also more risky at this point because since the test on the weekly here, it hasn't made a new low. It's now converted that weekly to a 2 weekly, and may even be a 3 weekly at the end of this week if we haven't gone back up there again. But either way, it's still at this point is looking fairly weak, but conscious we do have some stops here and it's becoming a not very clean level anymore, having already tested it. So just dropping down time frames now. So we had a 2 day in there, so I had this alert here on the weekly, it went up into a 2 day inside that and then dropped down, but again, like I say, hasn't made a new low. It's trying to re-pick this up as support now. And I have said previously, I think like Ripple does tend to retrace wicks. So for example here, it did bounce but then retraced down to the 61 to 70 fib after that wick. And even bigger wicks, for example here, eventually it's retraced the whole thing, particularly if it front runs a level, it can then retrace. So it's not surprising that it's coming back down here. But again, for this to be a decent short, like I really want to see this, not necessarily take out the wick, but ideally take out the wick, but it drops significantly in this zone, or back down the wick. And then it would just be a scalp short anyway. So looking for it to potentially come back into the 3 week level here, or this daily inside it. So we could potentially get a new entry around that 3 week level. And again, around this monthly, there's a monthly level there. So I'm flicking around time frames quite a lot. But it's so choppy, it's like these charts just aren't clean anymore, and I chart them because I have to, and I put alerts, so I don't have to put alerts, but I do put alerts, but typically I'm not hugely confident of alerts at the moment, or when it's in this level of chop. I am going to stick another alert here. Just if we get back into that 61 to 70 range of the wick. And maybe it's too low because we do have the 3 monthly a little bit higher, but 3 months, 3 week / 1 month demand retest. So that's retest alert there. What I do want to look at though is the BTC pair. So yeah, there's 2 sort of local alerts for you to watch, but like I don't think these are particularly high probability, but worth watching. And so like I say, so the overall trend is still dubiously up with the 3 month demand, and unless we flip that 3 month demand to supply, I wouldn't want to be shorting for larger moves, unless either the 3 month flips to supply or we start breaking a trend line and it gives some decent short entries on a trend line retest, for example. Other than that, like I say, sort of significant stink bids down at 2.5. My mouse has just reset the mouse. Okay. Stink bids all the way down here if you want them. And then also possibly on the swing failure of this monthly here, I have another alert there. But yeah, to be honest, I don't really love that chart. Just from a chop perspective, apart from the fact it doesn't look great. So let's see what we're doing on the BTC pair. Okay, so that's slightly more interesting. And I don't think I've updated these for the annual candles yet, so I will do that now. So annual chart. So we've had rejections here. So we had a swing fail of the annual week supply, swing fail also of the demand at the lows. I'm not sure, I know there's Binance, but massive swing fail of the lows followed by swing fail of the highs, and then a retest into this annual supply, rejecting again as we're coming down from there. 6 months, I really need to get rid of the crosses, I think, because that is making it harder to see. Maybe I'll do that later. Okay, so then since then we had a 6 month supply, which I was looking for the short on, but ended up taking a wick straight through it. You can see lots of long entries coming through there on this retest of, I think it was a monthly demand in there, but still coming off that supply, again, not high probability. We've now also got a 3 month supply in there, which I am going to alert, so just here. And it's still really messy. I don't like it when we've got all this chop. I mean, the high time frames on a lot of the charts are very, very choppy at the moment. So that was a 3 month that we got a massive wick through, along with this 3 month up here. But those can come back as resistance at a later date, so worth watching. But yeah, so I'm going to put an alert on this 3 month supply, just in case. Obviously, you don't think you can short Ripple Bitcoin. Maybe you can, but this is more just for observation on the US dollar chart that I put these in. Okay, so 2 month, nothing new. Monthly, also nothing new. And obviously looking like a breakdown. So we had this monthly demand here. We got an initial bounce off it, which didn't get very high. This is part of what I was commenting on earlier about coming back deeper into the zone, that we have this initial bounce on the zone. It's come deeper into the zone, but for this zone to hold, it can still come all the way down to the bottom, and in fact even swing fail the bottom in order for this monthly, and then the monthly will still be a valid demand. What makes it less valid and less strong is that the push off the monthly hasn't broken this supply. So we're still very much in a range here. And then now we're coming back to the bottom of the range. We've created a smaller range within, and we've got what's looking possibly like a swing failure off the bottom of the range here. And it looks like actually it just missed my weekly zone alert there. So yes, very possibly this could start pushing back up again, and again that makes that 3 month a week supply. However, I still like to alert it because it might give a reaction. Might end up with a 3 week there. There's a 3 week inside here as well, so that's, like I say, isn't going to be a short necessarily straight off the zone. I just like to be aware it's coming into the zone in case it times well with a reaction. This was a 3 week demand down here. So we've got a wick into the 3 week demand, which is interesting, and it's retracing that now. 2 week supply, weekly supply. Okay, so this now might be a 3 week, but is also confirmed weekly. So anyone who is trading Ripple, John, you can watch this, but if you do get this swing failure off here, and if it starts to break this weekly, but you do have a very high risk of this 3 months still giving some stronger reaction. Got an alert down here in the 3 day demand as well. But the risk then, if it does start breaking down here, if that ends up not a swing failure, given it hasn't broken any supply yet, if that does start breaking down here, it can come into this and then retest and just drop, because it would have broken the lower range, unless you get a wick that pushes it straight back up. But again, it's not a very pretty chart to be trading. It's just in a range. You know, if you are trading this and you start to see low time frame demand structure form in here, by all means take a long. The 3 month, like I say, is weak. So supply, be aware that's in there, and don't sort of go all in longs as it's coming up to 155. You know, you want to be getting in here if that gives you it. But for the moment, obviously the local trend is down, bottom of the range, possible long, possible short if it bounces here and comes up and retests. But yeah, it's not overly pretty at the moment. It's actually not dissimilar to things I was thinking about on the EtherBTC chart, you know, that this back from 2017-18 had this massive volatility, and comparing, you know, that section to this section, it's similar patterns. EtherBTC at the end of that has gone back up like that, whereas Ripple hasn't, which is not overly surprising either. But you know, it has come back down to the base. So in this case, if we're looking at the bigger picture, this has eventually retraced all the way back to the start of the impulse. So we could see similar here, that eventually it retraces back to the start of the impulse, and then we get a move again. But with the key difference is this move at the start of the impulse for Ripple didn't get very far. Only got up to that annual supply. But worth watching when it comes into the lows here. So again, you can set alerts a bit lower than that if you want, but it's still a bit no man's landish for me. Bottom of the range, third hit, can still hold, but hit and miss. I mean, we did see that on EtherBTC, but we still know with EtherBTC we still have to see the retest and if it's going to hold after the initial bounce. Not much more I can say on Ripple, and that's fairly non-definitive, sorry, and there's not high probability trades on either the Bitcoin pair or the US dollar pair there. You know, it's just messy, and not strong zones. I'm trying to think. No, there's still just more I would want to see in structure before thinking that this is going to have another decent long off it. You know, and also coming down, so we had this daily demand here, you know, and if it was going to pick up, and so we see this very similar structure on a lot of the majors. They had this weekly supply that was put in from December, January, and it's retested, and then I think, for example, Link has come fairly hard off that and made a new high. What else? BNB came deep inside and also managed to make a new high, irritatingly, because I had a short alert on that. But I think most of the others have not done very much. Go back to looking at all of these. BCH made a new high overall before even this test, or it tested early, held daily demand, and then made a new higher high. But all the others have really just come back in. See here, it's come back into weekly supply and it's just coming back down, testing daily demand, and is just hanging out in the same area. Litecoin went deeper into the weekly supply, but also came back into the daily demand. Sorry, hasn't quite come back into the daily demand yet, but again, not broken out and not broken out. And I think ADA, Link, Matic, it's basically all the same situation. It's only BCH that actually made a higher high at this point. And BCH, I think it was one I said to watch previously, while it wicked really deeply into here. This was a monthly demand, so it was one of the few to watch. So yeah, sorry John, there is not much excitement I can give you on this. It's really just ranging, and if you want to carry on trading low time frames, that's basically the way to go, because we're forming one giant triangle which is going to break one way or the other, and you just need to trade what you see, and if you see structure break in one direction, then trade accordingly. And for me, I'll just wait until these alerts hit and see if we get any new entries. Okay, Litecoin, moving on. So Litecoin, because it was one of the few to not hit this daily demand, I have got an immediate alert coming in there. I think I'll clean these charts up after this video and remove all the crosses, just so it's a bit easier to see, remove some of the mess in general maybe. So again, looking at the bigger picture on this and hiding all my mess. Litecoin was one of the ones I was more bullish on, because we did have this bounce here off the annual demand. That's back in 2018, but the structure in this is more specifically up, whereas maybe Ripple doesn't really have the history, for example. But then from this point, we then swing failed the high, so we can expect to potentially take out one of these lows following retest of that. On the yearly, we've started drifting below the yearly open, but it hasn't created any new yearly 6 months, 3 months. Hasn't created any new demand, and again, just still really in this giant triangle here. We have a 3-month supply, and that, yeah, I haven't alerted because we haven't got, and we dropped back and we haven't got close to that, and I keep running out of alerts, but that would be obviously the ideal short entry. This is the ideal long entry if we significantly drop back to $4, which I think people will be quite unimpressed with, but it's crypto, you never know. 2 month, so we did create a new 2-month supply at the close, so I have got an alert back up there should we go and retest it. Did have a swing failure here, and I think it might have taken out, no, okay, so we rejected the monthly supply and then we've come back. So again, there's the difficulty with these old majors is that triangle structure. So we've rejected a monthly supply here, got a 3-month above that we would prefer to be tested, but rejected the immediate monthly supply. So we are looking, my drawing's going to come back when I do this, but we are looking at this downtrend, which is retested. Actually, arguably that isn't really but that's the downtrend. It's retested supply at the break of support, and then we've dropped down from there. And then while it feels like we've had 4 months of alt season, in the case of Litecoin, it hasn't really gone very far. Take that off. So, okay, so the other thing, so the other alert, so I had, so again, we've got a monthly, we've got the 2-month demand here, which we swing failed the low of. So again, I was looking for the retest to come back into that, and hence this long entry here and the follow-up 2 long entries thereafter. However, it's just not got very far, and I was really hoping for a lot further on this also, because grayscale was so strong. And I'll show you that chart quickly, although my pictures are on another layout. So the grayscale, oh, it's now dropped a lot, but you can see the grayscale is in a much more bullish structure. So this is much more interesting, and I would like to see where Litecoin US dollar is at when the grayscale pair comes back and hits this level. So I might go through and set some alerts on these But yeah, so there's a 2-month demand and a 3-month demand in there. So in this case, again, didn't come back and test all the way to the lows, but yeah, it'll be interesting for if Grayscale comes back. I think what it, so yeah, it hasn't hit annual supply at the highs. But yeah, when Grayscale tests this 3-month, that'll be an interesting spot to look at potentially buying Litecoin on the US dollar pair, because Grayscale can be a bit of a leading indicator. Again, on these lower time frames, they're just messy. So we had the 2-month, we had a retest, swing fail of the 2-month, which came back through straight up into monthly supply and now back into monthly demand. So again, stuck between a rock and a triangular hard place. So yeah, all these triangles are just a bit more challenging. See if I can actually draw a triangle on this so I can monitor it a bit better. I don't really like drawing off the upper wicks, the triangles. So I might leave the top side for now. So yeah, 2-month supply there, I've got alerted. Nothing on the monthly. 3-week. So again, the 3-week, it's only just come up to here. Didn't have that alerted because I was hoping for higher at the highs, but did manage to get the retest in there. And then also, yeah, so we did form a slight uptrend here. We had a 3-week demand, which pushed up, swing failed at the high, but again, and now has come and taken out a 3-week demand. So we're kind of, but it hasn't closed below, but we're not looking at great structure right now. In fact, also this has created a 2-week supply. So similar to, what was I saying? Oh yes, I was saying these are the same thing basically on Ripple, like where it's had hyper drawings again. So we've had that weekly supply and it got tested and then it's created a 2-week supply. Litecoin's basically the same. This has had a weekly supply, got tested quite high inside the weekly supply. It's come back down and closed below, has now created 2 weekly supply and has just rejected off that. So this I'm probably more bearish on than I am on Ripple, and it's nice to see that structure play out, but also why it's worth having that local short entry on Ripple. Again, not a strong supply because of the massive wick, so we really like it to have closed below the wick of the green candle that's creating the supply. However, it's Litecoin and the shorts are probably of more value in general and across the market at the moment. You can see Bitcoin still making its way down. On my other screen, let me have another quick look at this. Okay, so on the basis that we've just come off 2-week supply here, I'm deleting this alert. Up to you if you want to keep watching it. There's probably better alts to look at, but 2 weekly supply versus a week daily demand, I'd rather not. So and again, we have some like scalp long entries in here, just doesn't really go very far and then tends to wick back deeper in the zone. Like if you feel very strong and bullish, then you wouldn't wick back quite so deeply. This alert I was actually surprised I had, and I don't think probably intended on having, because there are so many tests already on this 2-month zone over to the far left here, and then even secondary tests on this monthly zone. So I'll probably say on this I'm actually now a little bit more bearish, but again still quite ranging and a little bit difficult to judge. Again, nothing I massively want to trade on this. If we get bigger drops, go back to the bigger picture again. So you can see more clearly here there's the giant triangle, and I think that's what worries me on a lot of these charts, that we have this bottom trend line, which may or may not hold. Trying to wick through there, so I have a bearish C fork, potentially could come down into here, but yeah, if we start breaking out the bottom of these macro triangles, then it's not going to be great for the market as a whole. But Litecoin, so Litecoin on the macro, take that off. On the macro, I'm bullish because of the annual demand. So until we start seeing some annual supply or something like that. Bullish on the annual, 3 months, yeah, so all the monthlies aren't really giving me anything. You know, and it gets to the point on these where I just kind of feel like I'm guessing. So yes, this could be a macro bullish triangle, but in order for me to think that, I need to see that big green candle that's breaking out. I mean, the top isn't clear, and it's potentially could end up as an ascending triangle. But I need to see a lot more strength on this, probably a lot more volume coming in. I'm on a Bitfinex chart, so volume is probably not going to be overly valuable. But need to see a lot more volume coming in. But probably the better indicator on this is that LTC grayscale chart coming back into here, and if we see that hold demand, then we can probably look at getting a long on the US dollar pair. Excuse me, just checking messages. Right. But again, yeah, so nothing really locally tradable on this, and you can hopefully see why. Like, this is not the best analysis I've ever done in my life. It's been a while since I've done a video for a start, but also on top of that, as you can see, it's just a mess. You know, all this crawling up is very corrective, and this is why I've been much significantly less bullish across the market than other people from an all perspective. Mainly because, you know, total 3 hasn't really broken up, you know, significantly, but also because some of these older coins are really just not doing very much. And okay, that doesn't mean we're not going to get massive gains on meme coins and the newer alts, but and maybe I should just stop charting these overall. But I kind of like them as a general market indicator, because they have less volatility, as you can see, since the June 2022 low. But you know, and I joke that EOS is my top signal, but it is actually pretty useful from that perspective. But yeah, on this, so again, the other triangle thing is that we have a demand and it gets tested, goes up, we have a new demand made and it gets tested, goes up, and in this case hasn't gone very far. So thus I don't really want to start, you know, it gets to the point where you've got demand, you've got the original demand here, then you've tested into that demand again, you've tested into that demand again at the start of this impulse. This did give you the bigger move, but that ended up as a swing failure, not a significant breakout. So again, and it's retraced almost in its entirety. We tried to sort of make higher lows, but it didn't manage to get a push from there. And this is just starting to look progressively weaker to me. So while I'm bullish from the annual demand perspective, I don't know, maybe it just needs to come back down to the bottom of this range yet again. But this doesn't seem like a decent demand, or it certainly hasn't got demonstrated that it's a strong enough demand to do anything significant. Thus, I would probably expect to take out that low. Because of this high, I then also may expect to take out these lows as well. So macro bullish, but doesn't mean it can't go significantly lower first. And again, just trading levels as we see them. This 3-month supply is the only clean level we've got on the high time frame on the chart. All the other monthlies, etc., are just dirty, and even that 2-month is clean. I'm okay with looking for a short in that 2-month there. But there's nowhere I really want to long this, because I don't long just directly off trend lines. The only place I really would want to long it is down at $4. So, you know, stink bids at $4 if you want. Might get them on Bitfinex. You know, it has been known to do giant wicks. Okay, so that's Litecoin, and again, not very helpful and not the best analysis. But BCH again, so also a range not dissimilar to Ripple, a weaker in the range, and again, so we've had, so let's look at the annual. So we created a weak annual supply, but it didn't close significantly below, but we've got a decent annual supply there. It wicked up into it. Wouldn't mind a retest of that level. And I have an alert up there. What's this alert? 1 month and 2 month supply and annual level. So again, if we get up there, that would be a nice place for a short. 6 month, nothing new. 3 month has made a new 3 month demand, but also, and this was annoying and painful on Ripple, I actually noted that 3 month demand back last year. You know, it did have a slight close above, but the wick came down so deeply into the zone that I pretty much forgot about it. Like I think I was looking for the immediate bounce off the top on that candle, and then it just kept dropping. I think the timing wasn't right with the market, but then again, like Grayscale, for whatever reason, has had this significant move off the lows, yeah, this didn't wick all the way back down inside actually, which is interesting. But yeah, another thing that's worth keeping an eye on is when Grayscale comes back and hits that 3-month demand on BCH chart. But again, this is slightly more tenuous than the Litecoin one, because this has hit, it has hit the 3-month supply at the high here. So let's go back to the BCH US dollar chart. So again, we had a downtrend here, we had a retest, and again, just indicative of a lot of alt charts. You know, when you get this retest and it doesn't push down and make a new low, then it's becoming into a range. Then all your supply and demand become weaker, and it becomes significantly harder to make high probability trades. If we go in the 2-month, again, we've got a 2-month supply up here. We had a 2-month up here that got tested, made a new 2-month, hasn't been tested at the lows. So like I said, we had that 3-month that we saw before, and that wick that came really deep into it before. I think it obviously tried to bounce, you can see on this chart, but then it went a lot lower and took everybody out before the big pump. But yeah, another short up in this 2-month supply if it ever gets up there. And yeah, I did have an alert up there, but I've got it. 2 styles of alerts. If you look at all my alerts over here, you get 400 of the price alerts and 400 of technical analysis alerts, which includes sort of horizontals and trend lines and things like that. So I keep running out of the price alerts, so I have to then revert to setting the ones on the technical analysis. But again, okay, so we've just got on the monthly, we've just got a consolidation range, and 2 monthly that is, or even on the monthly, we've just got a consolidation range. As I said, we did have this weak monthly demand put in here. And that's why I was looking at hopefully for a bounce off the top of it, but it took a wick really deeply into it. But this one, I mean, I'm sort of slightly more bullish on locally than the other 2 that we've seen so far. So worth keeping an eye on. And if we get that drop, go back to that BCH Grayscale chart. If this drop takes us back into the 3-month here, in conjunction with this holding, then again I'd be a lot more confident that maybe we can get a move into this upper zone here. But that's still worth keeping an eye on in this range. And should we get the bigger drop, that would be a very nice entry, like not dissimilar to this, wicking down right to the lows before the bigger move. So I have an alert right down at the monthly at the lows there, excuse me. Let's go back down to the lower time frame. So yeah, you can see I've got alerts here on the 2-month and 3-month demand there. This one was a wild card. I think I was hoping for the 12-hour demand to get hit below, but it never came back. That's that really nasty wick that held this 3-month demand, but went to an hourly all the way at the base before the massive pump. The joy of crypto. The only thing, again, I'm not liking on a lot of the alt charts, and it's worth checking on anything you're trading, not these older ones, but anything with history, is a lot of them have got swing fails, either of a monthly level inside here or of this whole monthly zone. And again, that's where a lot of those I lack confidence, and if you're picking an alt to go long on, I would suggest one either with less history or one that's significantly broken out of the most recent monthly supply, rather than ones that have either wicked through it or done some sort of swing failure in the area. So BCH, so the distant entries, longs down here if we get there, shorts up here if we get there, and then locally, like everything else, just a really kind of a nasty, messy range, but a slightly more bullish one in this case, if we ignore this trend, these very attractive looking trend line stops. I think that was a hopeful weekly. So yeah, so far unable to make a higher high, rejected off the daily at the top of here. but we really want to see this consolidation hold and start to move up through there, but it's not giving anything clean right now. Weekly demand down here was already tested there. There is a weekly that hasn't been tested below that, but as you can see, I put in the comment, there's too long in this consolidation above now, so the probability is quite a lot lower than if it had just tested straight away. And I think that was even my thought here, although that did hold, so I think it's worth having these alerts. So for anybody who hasn't followed me before, alerts are, you need to judge the structure when it gets to the alert. So if it gets to this weekly, so let's say for example it swing failed here and then came down, tested this weekly. Sorry, when I say swing failed there, I mean like if it came up here and did that, you need to then make some sort of judgment that, I don't know why I just deleted all those immediately, as to whether you think it's going to hold this demand. So what that's telling you is that this demand, or that, you know, all these buyers through here aren't strong enough. They're only strong enough to stop hunt these sellers. At the moment, they're not even strong enough to break these sellers. So if we just come straight back down into there, this is a lower probability long than if this had broken out before coming back down to test there. Doesn't mean it won't work, it just means it's lower probability. You know, that's where you see these consolidation patterns and triangles coming from. You know, this still can form a sort of a large triangle like that. So it doesn't mean this probability is 0, but it's not as strong because this wick hasn't gone that high. If the wick had swing failed there, then almost I like that less than this. Yes, it shows the buyers are a bit stronger, but it also potentially shows just the buyers doing a bit of fuckery. And thus it then may come down and take out those sellers if it had got to a swing fail of that point. So again, I would consider that lower probability. So when I set these alerts and you get the, you either can set your own alerts if you're not following my premium, or if you get the alerts in my premium, you've basically got to judge, do you want a limit order here based on what you think the probability is? And a lot of that is based on what it's done here first. I can't be on top of all the different alerts. So, you know, like if I may not look at this for another few weeks and it might go up and break out before it gets back to here. Alternatively, you know, now we can look at this, we can see it's got monthly demand. So we could say, you know, if it does come through here, we really want to see a wick pushing it straight back up, or it's going to close this monthly demand as a monthly supply, in which case, again, you may not want to do it. So let's look at the monthly. So for example, oops, can't really show. Yeah, if this comes back down now, hits that weekly and closes the month, which is in 13 days, back down here, then it's going to flip this into monthly supply, and that's going to make it again much lower probability, or you may only want to take a scalp. So that's why I kind of let everybody make their own judgments on how they trade these rather than giving stops and take profits and all that sort of stuff. Everybody needs to manage themselves. However, just because it's low probability doesn't mean it's not going to give you a scalp of some sort or even a breakout. So yeah, it's just up to you to judge those probabilities. This has had a significant amount of consolidation. That's another reason I don't particularly like it when it gets to there, because if it's done that, quite often it will just go through the zone. And if it does, those are your stink bits down the bottom here. So I didn't look at the. Did I look at Litecoin? I can't remember now if I looked at Litecoin BTC chart. Can I look at that? Oh, I did not. Okay, let me finish BCH and I'll go. That really does look bad actually. So BCH, we're on BCH now, so let me go back to that. BCH, Bitcoin. Nothing new on the yearly. 6 monthly I had an alert up there, but we didn't quite get to it. 3 month it did make a 3 month demand, but rejected off 3 month supply. So again, between rock and hard place now. But we are in a 3 month demand, so this could get some sort of move up. New monthly supply there. Okay, so we're just consolidating inside the 3 monthly zone around the 61 fib, which is decent. Preferred entry obviously would be down here, and I'm going to alert that. 1 week demand inside 3 months. So that would be an interesting entry. Now that is a decent move off there. However, again, this is this is BCH. You can see it had a very strong move off there. Thought it went straight into 3 month supply and then just died a slow death the entire way down. And this is not dissimilar to what's happened here. Got a very, very strong move straight in 3 month supply. So is it just going to die a death and continue down this channel? I mean, the whole thing is just in a ginormous downtrend, isn't it? But again, doesn't mean, like, at some point, if it's going to reverse, big if, it has to make a higher low. So when you do have a, I don't know if that up there had made any sort of this yet. So this has made a 3 month demand. This hadn't made, it's a kind of made a monthly, bit of a poor monthly, but it's poor like the 3 month. But yeah, this is very similar to what happened here, really. You know, it sort of came down into what would have been monthly demand, and it tried to hold similar to what it's doing here before it died back to the start of the impulse, and again tried to hold before dying again completely. But worth watching. So you've got that alert down there, and then monthly supply up here. Should it come back to retest? And again, the case here, it didn't. It never came back to retest. And there's a monthly, there's a weekly certainly up there, but yeah, there's. Oh, it did make a monthly supply in here, and then it made a weekly, 2 weekly up here, but it didn't really test either of them properly. So again, this could just die a death from here, but if we're going to see BCH recover and a new flippening, we could see it from here. But as it stands, I would potentially expect, you know, if we were going to get any sort of more of a bounce from here, that it just to hit this monthly supply and then come back down into that zone anyway. Yeah, nothing really I want to add on that. So from a BTC pair perspective, I could see that coming down or bouncing. Like it's at a bounce point, but it hasn't really shown much sign of a bouncing in the couple of weeks that it's been there so far. So that doesn't really help me. So when I look at the BTC pairs, I'm more looking for confluence. Like if I need the US dollar pair to be at a zone as well. So if it's not at a zone, so in the case, well, I mean, this is at a monthly supply, and it's trundling, trying to push up into the monthly supply. Hold on, what's the time frame? So yeah, it was after the pump, 26th of June. Wow, it's 6 months since the pump. This has obviously come down a lot since then because Bitcoin went up more in that time, while the BCH US dollar pair didn't go up in that time. Yeah, so what I'm really looking for is the confluence. So we had the confluence of hitting supply at the same time on the BTC and US dollar pair, so that would have been great for the short, but the US dollar pair in that case hasn't gone very far. With the BTC pair has drifted further down. But as it stands, again, in the range, it's not really helping me much, unless the BCH pair, the BTC pair hits a high probability zone. Okay, and quickly go back to LTC Bitcoin, just because this really doesn't support longs at all. It's broken support, and it's retesting and appears to want to die more from here. Or like, well, it's not got back over the retest. You can keep an eye on this. If it does get back over that green line, sure, by all means long Litecoin. If it doesn't, do not. And I think I had, yeah, so I had let's look at yeah, so we've got a new annual supply up here now. Oh, actually, no, we had the annual supply. Oh, sorry, no, we didn't. That was the new annual supply has been created there. 6 month level here, and I think I previously had an alert in here for something 2 month and 3 month and 1 year supply, so all of it, but it's actually a waste of an alert because I really don't think it's going to go back up there anytime soon. So Litecoin against Bitcoin is obviously, you can see the weakness there. You know, people who play divergences and things like that might want to look at divergences, but for me, I'd rather see structure supporting before just blindly longing what's quite a nasty downtrend. And so yeah, there's not much to be said on this. It's broken, it's in a downtrend, it's made a new low. It's made a weekly supply and it's coming down off that weekly supply. If you see it move back into here, or if we see some consolidation through here, maybe we can think it might be a long, but it really isn't right now. This is a short. And then it also supports the US dollar pair, having hit that weekly supply and also being a short. So yeah, I really don't want to be looking for longs on Litecoin right now. Okay, and finally, before this video, I have 8 minutes before this is going to become an hour video. I need to try and figure out a way to be more succinct. So EOS, which is, as you know, is generally my top signal, local top signal for that, because for some reason it works. Annual supply all the way up there, nothing new. 6 month, nothing new. 3 month is what we were looking for, the short and the retest that we got. So that was the higher probability short, waiting for that 3 month supply to be hit. And there, like we do, if you look back at the historical charts, there is some very distant, let me just bring it up quickly. So I use this charts.cointrader.pro, which you can't see. It's off the top of the screen, but to look at some of the history, so like if you look at the MAV charts, you'll just see this section of it, whereas there is more before, which is worth knowing for the people who have been holding for longer periods and who are trapped in where your targets might be. But EOS is the same. They're not always that easy to find, the pairs. But yeah, so EOS was just of interest because we are coming back to the 2017 lows, but again we still need to see it break some sort of supply to commence an uptrend. So for people who like just buying support and resistance, EOS is actually not a bad macro buy, assuming it's not just going to die, but at least you've got an easy stop loss. But where we are at this point in time, you don't get all the time frames on this this tool, unfortunately. It just goes up to monthly. Yeah, so we come off that monthly supply there, so keep an eye on this if you're a macro investor, crypto trader. You know, if it does come down and start to hold here, potentially you can look for this to make a bigger move. It is tentatively at support, but yeah, it didn't quite hit. So I think I did have, I had alert actually at the start of this weekly, but it didn't get much of a bounce initially and then came deeper, and now it's gone back up. Let's go back to the EOS chart. So yeah, that's why I have these random lines down here and the alert for possible all-time low. Come off 3 month supply, short bias, alert for possible long. I had one on this 3 week, I've got another one on the next 3 week, but this is short bias. So my preference at this point of time is to look for this to develop into a downtrend. Because of the 3 week demand, I didn't put the more aggressive short here in the weekly supply. I was slightly higher and therefore hasn't got tested yet. But that could come in if we do get another pump on Bitcoin. And then I've got another alert in here in this 3 month supply, or they're stacked 3 month supplies actually, so I should really have the other upper one drawn in. When I say stacked, I mean you've got this, I mean this is the actual 3-month supply going all the way up here. So it's the first one that's up against the drop. So we had this massive drop and then we had this huge bounce. This one is really just a consolidation. Now, so while I draw this other box in, that's actually not the preferred, but because EOS is a bit weaker, it's still worth again watching that level. But really the higher probability short strictly should be, I might end up with that, strictly should be, you know, the 61 retracement from that last wave. So could be up closer in here or even further up towards the top. So this is an aggressive short entry from a 3-month perspective. Again, doesn't mean it won't work, and because it's EOS, it's kind of worth looking at those shorts. But again, so from a structural perspective, we've got the bigger downtrend that I just talked about, and this is just a retesting the bigger downtrend. It can go higher on the retest and still could go here, and still be a valid downtrend. So when we look at for the short at the start, noting it could go higher in the zone, and then we've got this local uptrend. So at the moment, we are just testing the first demand in that uptrend, not dissimilar to Bitcoin, not Ether so much, but Bitcoin. But until it breaks that, it's not in a downtrend, and even then, it could still hold the start of this impulse. So probabilities not particularly high because it's EOS, but you know there's no reason it can't do that whilst and then still continue the 3-month downtrend. But it's EOS, so my bias is short, and I'm feeling, I'll check on the Bitcoin chart in a moment, but I've got a feeling that's pretty low probability. Sorry, the EOS BTC, I've got a feeling that's going to be looking very bearish as well, and is not necessarily going to support longs on this pair. So yeah, the aggressive short, aiming for a lower high, similar to the analysis I did on Ether and Bitcoin the other day. If the lower high is going to be put in, was there, although this has come off a bit lower. That'd be an aggressive short based on 3-month supply, but we still need to confirm that we are going to get a lower high and have a downtrend start moving in here. Here's Bitcoin. Is now breaking even the meme trend line. Let's just meme that even further. So EOS. Look at I always like, while I have the charts, everything charted, I always like to do a quick top down so I know what I'm dealing with. So annual supply came off annual supply and dropped. Made a 6-month, new 6-month, and I remember, yeah, we called that last year, the year before now actually, and retested, and that is why it's worth looking at the Bitcoin pair, because this may not be that clear on the US dollar pair, but can be clearer on the Bitcoin pair. I might go back and have a look at that just so you can see what I mean. And now made this new 6-month supply. So if this does come up and wicks into here, then again that's a high probability short. 3-month not much new, 2-month not much new, and monthly still down. So we do have a monthly supply in here. But yeah, so that would be your perfect short entry should it get up there. But then the more aggressive was here if we got up there. But again, we haven't even got that far because this is weak compared to Bitcoin again. So we'll just do a couple of little updates on this. That's 3-week supply, 2-week, and weekly. So yeah, this has made a weekly supply there. Hasn't quite hit the weekly supply actually. So possibly could get that move on the US dollar pair into the daily supply that I had a little bit higher there. That might happen. So worth your alert setting there or keeping an eye on that daily zone if you're following this pair. And then I was going to look at the, where we got that test up here because that was nice and clean. But so August 2022 and then 5th of September, so the last couple of weeks of August and early September before we got the bigger drop. And so that would be here, so August, and then that was the secondary drop, so the BTC pair actually wicked a little bit higher there. But yeah, this was an interesting one because I think when I was watching this, yeah, it had got to the 3-week supply, but I was still hoping, I think, for this 6-month or the 3-month up here, which I don't know if that 3-month is valid or not. Yeah, I think I was still hoping for higher because you can see it didn't, like, it came off the bottom of that wick, but it's not really an ideal supply zone for that. But if you're watching the BTC pair, then you can see that that's potentially a place to take profit because of the BTC pair is going to reject there. You know, I kind of thought they would be significantly less valid these days because nobody's trading in BTC pairs anymore. There's some old levels in here that I'm noticing now because nobody's trading, but I mean they do actually seem to be worthwhile, at least on the few things I do look at them on, and I'll do another video on the new majors, Link, etc. But yeah, Link, for example, has been up against a 6-month supply on the BTC pair for a while, and it literally hasn't moved. So I'm quite interested as to whether the BTC pair actually would have died off, because I think Bitcoin's gone higher in that time, but was a very good indicator of just leaving Link alone because it was in, I think, a 6-month BTC pair supply, and has been very useful from that perspective. Anyway, so that's the end of the majors and really the old majors. And really not much exciting to report. So generally we're looking, what I look for and why I even chart these is just for that confluence on Bitcoin. So when we start to have, you know, these big runs where they follow after Bitcoin, when Bitcoin's messing around, kind of stopping people out and trying to make higher highs or lower lows, if these are all, like, it comes to a point where everything's aligned, everything's in supply, and we actually had a really nice point like that. Actually, when Bitcoin did drop, I had alerts on so many of these. So I will clean these off for the next video. But so the Bitcoin drop. Let me just check the Bitcoin chart. It was post ETF, wasn't it? So the Bitcoin drop was on Friday the 12th, and on the same day, I believe, I don't think it was the day before, but it was the same day. Am I right in thinking that, or was it just... No, it was the same day. Okay, so you can see, so yeah, that BCH was just throwing me off a bit there. So we'd started having these drops on the old and new majors, on alts in general, so I started to put in some more aggressive short entries for the potential lower highs on the retest. BCH just threw me off because I think that did hit a bit early and then did take out on the 12th when the actual ETF happened, did actually take out the high. EOS didn't quite hit, but then we had Litecoin that was in weekly supply. It had got there a little bit early and thus went a bit higher. We had Ripple also, I think, I got there a little bit early, but just held. Then on the new majors, we had BNB hit the alert, we had ADA hit the alert, we had Matic hit the alert, and a couple of these were earlier than others, and thus when they all hit, it was really a nice indication of when the ETF got released, and they all just dumped the next day. Link hit. And there were a couple that I didn't have them on, actually. Atom was one of the ones I didn't have it on. I'll do another video with these anyway. Atom was another one I didn't have it on because I had 6-month demand in here. But yeah, DOT, supply, near at supply. I think again was a little early, so it went a little bit higher, but it was a 3-day zone, so expected it. And Sol was the other one I left alone because this is just in a triangle. And Sol I'm just actually watching for the possibility of a short now because it's just made a 5-day supply. Yeah, would like to see it break this trend line. Just don't know if it's going to wick up. Anyway, another video on this before I really go overboard, but I was kind of looking for, not that, potentially just a wick up into here before that drop, or getting that retest of the trend line there. Just because supply isn't that clean, but there's a 5-day supply there, so this was worth watching for a short to me, finally. Hasn't really given me anything. There was a short there. I think I didn't like it though because it had already retested a few times into the zone. Anyway, I digress. It was the confluence on the 12th, or the 11th to 12th, with all these alerts hitting on the new majors and the old majors, which is why I liked it. It was kind of proved to me why I like to keep these updated, because when things start hitting all the alerts at the same time, that tends to be very good confluence for a whole-scale market change or reversal. And yeah, so similar to Bitcoin, on all of these, we're basically looking at the same sort of structure. We had the higher high on BCH, but lower highs on everything else, and we're looking at this local daily demands, hopefully breaking to continue that short. Presuming the short entry is valid, presuming that's the confirmation of the new downtrend coming into play. Anyway, so that's it. Hopefully that has been of some use, although I'll do some other alts. Just wanted to update this because of John wanting XRP, and just because, like I say, it gives me an overview of the market normally, although it's not very helpful right now, but really what it's given me an overview of right now is that I just need some major breaks in structure to start being more confident, and it's just really rangy, which really is what Bitcoin's telling me, so that's nothing too surprising. These ones, like I said, aren't very high probability short or long side at the moment, but you've got levels you can watch. Ripple, BCH, EOS, not Litecoin. And Litecoin you can watch here for the long if you want. Ripple you can watch here for the long, but the others I'm just not confident on the long side unless we get bigger drops. I've probably shown you enough with the bigger charts to know where you can put your stink bids. And I will post the charts in my channel anyway, so you can look at the levels when the video is not on. And I will also hide some of my old arrows and crosses for the old alerts and things like that, so it's not so messy. Anyway, have a good day.